Hello and welcome to Updog Sports Talk. If you are learning about us for the first time, here at Updog Sports Talk, we deliver honest, fan-focused coverage that spotlights the teams, the athletes, and the communities that are often overlooked by mainstream sports media. We do that because your team has a story worth telling. So that is our mission, and we're going to continue that today. We're going through a conference preview series right now where we're diving into different conferences, looking at each team, going over what's to be excited about, what are potential concerns, and what success looks like for them in 2026. Today, we are looking at the United Athletic Conference, the UAC, one of the more intriguing conferences in FCS. It definitely has an interesting lineup to it, but it's a conference that is very strong, usually produces several playoff teams, and as you can see by my shirt here, we used to be part of the WAC at one point, so this is kind of the continuation of the WAC that once existed, and while we missed the WAC, the UAC has began a life of its own, so we'll dive into that. It starts with Abilene Christian, the Wildcats. They are coming off of back-to-back conference titles, which is very quiet because, some other teams in this conference that receive a lot more hype, but in all reality, it's Abilene Christian. It's been the team to beat here. I don't think a lot of people realize that. There's a lot of hype around Tarleton State, especially because they may move up to FBS at any given point. But Abilene Christian really is the winning program in this conference. They're 3-1 against Tarleton State the last 4 years under their head coach Keith Patterson. This is a team that's always very good. They have a lot of significant contributors coming back. They have a strong run game. There's definitely a lot to like on the defensive side of the ball as well. The one concern for them is going to be they're breaking in a new starting quarterback. So last couple of years, they've had a really talented, really experienced quarterback come in, play very well. Some great names too, great first names too, by the way. You go from a quarterback named Maverick to a quarterback named Stone. And that sets the expectations pretty high. But yeah, it's going to be up to the new quarterback to come in and really just keep this machine going a little bit. That is going to be one of the more scary parts of this team. One of the big areas they got to figure out if, the options they have are largely unproven at this level. But if they can figure that out, then you're looking at another successful season. In terms of success, I think you're looking at trying to win this conference once again. You won it back-to-back years. So that is now the standard here at Abilene Christian is to win the UAC. So that is their goal there. And to go a little bit further in the FCS playoffs. Make it to the quarterfinals this year, I think would be a huge step towards becoming a bigger player at this level. So I think that if they can make the quarterfinals this year, I think that would be a huge accomplishment. It'd be the first time getting that far and would show, hey, this program is coming a long ways here. They are continuing to improve and really becoming towards a top team in this conference. Next, we go to the Austin Peay Governors. We are big fans of the Govs here on the show. If you've been around us for a while, you'll know that we had Gov Talk on last year when they took down Mid-10 State. That was a lot of fun. Really what gets us excited about the program this year is there's a lot of that core coming back. You've got a star quarterback in Chris Parson. He is one of the top quarterbacks at the FCS level. Really a dual threat. He can throw, he can run it. Accounted for 37 touchdowns last year. Definitely the huge centerpiece of this team. But they got a lot of options around him too. A really good supporting cast. So there's a lot to be excited about there, but maybe one of the areas that is not so exciting to talk about in the offseason, but could be one of their bigger concerns is kind of just remaking that defensive front. They lost a lot up there. They're going to need to keep that up. And of course, just in general depth, we saw this team start out really awesome last year, but eventually as the year went on, those road trips became very grueling for them. They suffered a few upset losses, and that ultimately led them just on the outside of the FCS playoffs, which does bring us to what success looks like for Austin Peay. I think for sure making the FCS playoffs, got to break that, got to get in there, maybe win a game, and I think you're looking in a pretty good spot, but with a guy like Chris Parson, I mean, they're also hoping that they can even win this conference. If you're looking for someone to try to take down Abilene Christian, beyond Tarleton State, obviously that's the obvious team with a lot of hype. We'll get to them later. But of all the other teams that could break through and win this conference, Austin P is definitely one of the top candidates. You could see them take down Abilene Christian and win the UAC this year. This is a team that has that possibility, but simply making the playoffs, winning a playoff game, that would also look very successful for the Govs this year. We go to the Central Arkansas Bears. And this is honestly one of my favorite programs just because they play on the wildest field in college football. If you've never seen this before, it is purple and gray turf. Make sure you look it up when you're done watching this episode. It is pretty amazing how it looks. Some people don't like it. In my opinion, this is college sports. It's not supposed to be taken as seriously as it has been lately. So I like it when we see programs just get weird and have fun with it. And that's really what you got with this field. But getting to what the team looks like on the field this year, they got a really good running back. Their offensive line is experienced, going to help them run the ball pretty well. But this is, and the funny thing was, like, they just, a couple of years ago, they spent a lot of the year in the top 10 of the rankings. And then all of a sudden, they suffer an upset loss at Utah Tech, and things just dropped off. They lost a bunch of games the rest of that season, ended up falling from spending much of the year in the top 10 to not even reaching the playoffs. And then last year, that slide continued. They ended up 3-9, and you're seeing a trend in the wrong direction, and that's going to be really difficult to turn around. But that is going to be the key. They need to turn it around. I think you got an early season game against UTRGV at home. Try to pull off the upset there on the purple and gray turf, and that's where you can start to build positive momentum again. That's the big thing. If you can build positive momentum, I think this team has the talent base to get back to contention again. But it's just about being able to do that and really just get that turnaround going. So success, I think at least getting back to 500 would be really good for the Bears. I think at that point you kind of, this year is kind of a dip a little bit. Get yourself back to being solid again. And that way, you get to that level, and there's hope that they can turn it around further and get back to the playoffs in 2027. So I think that's what success looks like. If you really get the ball rolling, this team could reach the playoffs. Maybe they'll be by sleeper pick later on. We'll find out. But yeah, I think that's what success looks like for the Bears. We go to Eastern Kentucky. This is a program that has a lot of great history at the FCS level. They've won a national title before, but last couple years have been a little bit rougher for them. They have a lot of stars on the offense. Preseason all UAC running back Braden Latham, it really leads the way there. So there's definitely a lot to like about what Eastern Kentucky has this year. This is a program that has some solid resources. They have talent. I think they still have their eyes at the FBS level. And, if Western Kentucky wasn't blocking them, who knows? They could be in Conference USA right now. But this is a program definitely with a lot of talent. But at the same time, you've got a major retooling job on the defensive line. They lost a lot up front, really a largely unproven group there. So you need that unit to step up to help the defense continue. And, yeah, just really keep that momentum going. So for Eastern Kentucky, success looks like managing to, I would say get back to the FCS playoffs. I think that's actually a fair expectation is to at least make it. Like, you don't even have to win a game. Just get back towards the top of this conference and reach the playoffs. I think Eastern Kentucky fans will be very happy with that. And that way you're positioning yourselves to be a bigger contender even moving forward. But yeah, so I would like to see that. I mean, not that the pitchforks would come out if they just barely miss it. I think you at least need to be in that mix. Next, we get to North Alabama. I think for North Alabama, there's a lot of excitement in terms of, like, they're opening a brand new stadium this year. And it's a very nice looking stadium. Like, I feel like that alone is just a message that this program is very serious about becoming a player at the FCS level. And you got some good players here. You have Fred Veely on the defensive line. They got some pretty good defensive linemen. They're going to be a headache for opposing offenses. So there's some things alike, but they struggled last year's. It's going to take some time to turn it around fully. So that's going to be the big thing here, and especially they need to figure out the passing attack. Their quarterback Destin Wade is back, but he completed just over half his passes last year. You need to get that up into the 60s at least to help this offense kind of grow a little bit. So that is going to be what they're going to need there. I think in terms of expectations, make sure you do not finish last, especially with some newcomers come with a newcomer and a relative newcomer still here. I think avoiding last is going to be a key. Kind of climb your way up towards the mid pack in this conference and show some excitement in this new stadium. And I think you could bring more fans around, and I think that would be huge positive momentum for the UNA Lions. So that I think that's what it looks like for them. I'm excited to see that new stadium. I think it's going to be really cool, and hopefully we'll soon see the on-field success follow that. Now we get to Tarleton State, and this is the team that has a lot of the hype around them. I think that this is a program that's loud about going FBS. It feels like a matter of when, not if. They will be eventually playing FBS football. But for the time being, I think people consider them a top contender for the FCS title. And for the most part, people have written them in as just winning this conference. So I think now, of course, when the voters that pay attention to this conference voted, Abilene Christian was tied for first with them. And I think Abilene Christian may have even had the tiebreaker. So it goes to show that it's not going to be as obvious. Now, there's a lot of reasons for the hype. You got playmakers all around the offense. You've all UAC running back Tylen Hines. There's very clearly a strong talent base here to be very excited about. So there are reasons behind the hype. But that being said, there still are concerns. I think one of the areas that people don't like to talk about in the offseason is the offensive line. It's not an exciting position to talk about. It's more fun to talk about the exciting receivers, the running backs, quarterbacks, all those glory positions. But the offensive line really drives a lot of how a team does, especially at the FCS level. Like, offensive line play is very important at this level. And Tarleton State lost a lot of those anchors to the FBS level. So you need to be able to replace those. And in general, like, a lot of their top end talent got raided by the portal. Receiver Cody Jackson's gone and all of that. So, they're aggressive in the portal in return and bringing guys in, but you're always rolling the dice with that. And you're not entering this year. Last year they entered with a 3-year starter quarterback, knew what he was doing right away. Now you're breaking in a new QB, and a lot of these options are mostly unproven at this point. You have guys who have played, like Caden Anderson played at Wyoming, but wasn't very efficient as a passer. I don't know if you're in a good position if he starts. I believe this is where Braden Locke, who was kind of Wisconsin for a little bit, also landed. But I don't know what you're looking at there. So what you're looking at the quarterback position, there's definitely a lot of mystery there. So that is where I'm concerned about this team. I am probably lower on the Texans than most people, but this is still, and to get to expectations now, this is still a program that has the upside to compete for an FCS title. They have the talent here. It needs to come together a little bit, but especially with all the new parts. But this is still a team that can win the FCS title. I think in terms of expectations, I think they're at least looking to win this conference finally. Abilene Christian's won it the last years. It feels like it's time for Tarleton State to grab a UAC title. So win the conference title and make it to the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs. They have not made it that far. Last year, felt like the year where they should have gotten that done, lost at home to Villanova and did not get there. So I think that's going to be the other big key for them is at least make it that far. But again, this is a program that has the upside to make the FCS title. So don't be mistaken on that. I know I feel like because there's a lot of hype around this program, I kind of focus more on the negative than the positive with this team. But don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of positives about it. Now we get to one of the newcomers of the FCS level, the West Florida Argonauts. I mean, one of the coolest names you'll ever see. Really cool color scheme. They have a cool stadium. There's a lot of excitement with this team. Like, I'm very excited to see them play. And, this is a program that has been fantastic at the Division II level. They're going to come up ready. And I think the winning culture this program has, they still have a decent amount of talent. I know some of them kind of got raided by the portal a little bit, but I think they're going to come in and be able to compete right away. Maybe not for a conference title, but we're talking at least win some games. They were projected dead last in the conference in the preseason poll. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to do better than that. That being said, there still is that tough transition to FCS competition. The players are going to be tougher, especially in the trenches. So that's going to be difficult. And, I think the only team in the conference with no all UAC selections. So that's going to be pretty tough. And it also feels like the conference kind of set them up a little bit to make sure they didn't succeed too much early on. There's a reputation to uphold. And so I think they got a lot of the big players on the road. So that's going to be pretty difficult as well. So really, for West Florida, I think success looks like just kind of implement yourselves a little bit. Show that once you're eligible, you're going to be reaching the FCS playoffs right away. Just be competitive. Don't finish last in the conference. Win some games. And I think you're looking at a program that's going to be great at this level very soon. Again, I'm very excited for what this program is going to do. But this is a transition year. There's going to be growing pains, but yeah, this is going to be a fun team to watch. And by the way, that opening Thursday of the FCS season, they host Southern Illinois. So being a UAC program hosting a Missouri Valley program, I think that's actually pretty huge. So that'll be a pretty cool one. Again, the chance to see their stadium. It's on ESPN Plus, which I'm sure if you're watching this episode, you most likely have that. So make sure you tune in and check that out because I think that will be a really fun game, at least early on. And then we close it out with the final team on our list, West Georgia. They kind of caught some people by surprise last year. They came in and immediately had success. They spent a lot of time in the top 25, but now they go through kind of a coaching change a little bit. That being said, hiring Steve Englehart from Presbyterian, he is a really, really good coach. The staff is really good. So this is going to be a very well-coached team right out the bat still. It's hard losing your coaches and a lot of your players to another program. They lost a lot of those guys to Mercer, but you're replacing them with a coaching staff that did a really good job, and they did a lot with less. Presbyterian beat Mercer last year. They ended up losing a couple games late in the year that cost them a spot in the FCS playoffs, which, I was actually on the sidelines when I saw them lose to Dayton. So I don't know West Georgia's going to want me on the sidelines because it might be bad luck for them. But, this is a very well-coached team. They bring some of their guys over a little bit. Most notably, Colin Hurst, the quarterback. He's a little bit shorter, but he is a guy who is very accurate and can really help the offense move. He's a very exciting option for them. So I think that's already a reason for excitement. But of course, at the same time, you lost a lot of guys. The secondary in particular was hit pretty hard. So kind of replacing those pieces will be a huge key. And in terms of expectations, for one, this program was dropped to 6th in the preseason poll. I'm not sure if that was fair. I think maybe they probably should be a little bit higher. So proving that on the field would be a big key. Finishing with a winning record, I think, is a pretty good goal. I think if they do that, you're looking at a good spot in year one of a new era. And yeah, we'll just see that continue. So that'll definitely be an intriguing team. I definitely think there's a lot to like about them still. So I'll go ahead and say that West Georgia is going to be my sleeper pick. I think they'll be really good right away and definitely right up in the mix So yeah, I think they're a pretty good sleeper pick. Although again, I also think West Florida could also be competitive at this level. So watch out for those two. They'll be very intriguing to see this year. And my UAC title pick, you know what, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I've kind of gone with a lot of predictable champions in some of the other shows, but I'm gonna go with Austin P. I think with Chris Parson, quarterback, they could show up and kind of surprise people a little bit, win the conference title, and yeah, I think have a really good season. I think Austin P could really be the true breakout program in this conference. So that'll be very exciting to watch. So thank you for tuning in. It was definitely, this is what the nature of our show is. We love to cover the programs that don't receive a lot of attention. Hopefully you learned a lot about these teams. So be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching this on podcast format, please leave a review. All of it helps us to bring the coverage to these programs that deserve it. Thank you and have a good night.